So, welcome to a new episode of Experts Speak English. And today I am going to be talking to the amazing Olivia Schofield. Now, I am from the UK, as is Olivia. I'll be speaking to her a bit about that in just a moment. But let me just tell you a bit about Olivia. So, I met Olivia through Toastmasters, and I know I go on a lot about Toastmasters because it is fantastic. But this lady has not just, she doesn't just do speaking, as a free time thing or to improve her confidence or anything like that. She's actually making her living as a speaker, traveling all over the world, all over the country. And she's also an award-winning TEDx speaker. So not that I'm feeling nervous at all about that. No. And she's also, what I loved about her, and I love this when you look at people's LinkedIn profile, she says, I'm changing speakers from informing to speakers that inspire. And that is right up my street, because I think every conversation could potentially be a career-changing conversation. So let me welcome Olivia Schofield. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, here I am. And exactly. A speaker speaks to inspire. They do not speak to inform. If you want to inform, write an email, send a document. You want to inspire, speak.
Exactly. It's all about persuasion, isn't it? And leadership isn't about doing your job. It's about inspiring people to go to the next level, isn't it?
Exactly. In fact, when you talked about where our careers made, often, if you get an opportunity to speak in public, you should take it, because that shows you as a leader who's willing to put themselves out front, leading by example. And a lot of people think, I don't want to do it. I hope they are someone else. But there is where careers are made.
Exactly. And I think all too often, isn't it the case that people get asked once, and if they say no the first time, the chances of them being asked a second time are less. If you say no a second time, a third time probably isn't going to happen.
No, and you've got to be willing to get out of your comfort zone. I think that to make a better career, and also to speak a different language. Yeah. I mean, I remember when I first moved to Germany, my German was schlechtlich, terrible.
That's ja gar nicht.
And what I say is, it was terrible, it still is terrible. However, it didn't stop me speaking it. And I knew a lot of people that because they didn't get the der, das, dessen, deren correct, they actually just didn't practice it. And that's a big mistake. Practice it with all your mistakes. And of course, you can always rely on the Germans to correct you. And then your German gets better and better and better. And it's the same if you speak English. Don't worry about getting it right. Worry about giving it a go.
Yeah, I always say it's not about perfectionism, it's about passion and professionalism. Yeah, cool. So I'm working with a lot of women at the moment, and they have a real fear of speaking up. So do you have any tips for people that are kind of putting it off, making excuses, giving people, the wrong... I've got a printer, it's got a life of its own, it's very weird. I didn't touch anything. Right, okay, so don't know what that's about. I'm sure this place is haunted or something. Anyway, so getting the ladies to get up onto the stage, what would you say to inspire them?
I would say that men are very quick to put themselves forward, even if they have absolutely no talent or no idea of what's going on. And women think, unless I'm absolutely sorted and perfect and got a complete eye over everything, I'm not going to put myself forward. And that's a mistake. And that's where men often get on a lot better than women, because they're willing to take a bit of a risk and put themselves forward. And one of the reasons for that is that women are anxious about coming across as an expert, and they really want to know their stuff before they speak. But the fact is, when we speak on stage, we don't need to worry about being an expert. What we need to worry about is connection. That is the crucial element, connection. And we don't connect just being an expert. We connect by being our own unique selves. And so we shouldn't be afraid to be our own unique selves. And our own unique selves isn't perfect. And isn't that a wonderful thing?
Yeah, absolutely.
Once we try to be like others, and we try to be like the speaker before us, or be like another boss, and seem like an expert, that's when we get fearful, we get terrified, and we start to feel sick inside that we're going to be found out as an imposter. And you know what's amazing is that I spoke at Women in Tech in Amsterdam a few years ago. Actually, that was the London one. I spoke on imposter syndrome. The room was packed to overflowing. They had to have people sitting in the aisles. They had to have the doors open. It was full because everybody feels like this, not just your viewers.
That's true. That's true. And I remember when I was a little bit younger, one of my first speeches was at the E-Learning Day in Hamburg. This is going back a long time. I didn't even have children, right? So it's a long time ago. My son is now 19. And my German wasn't brilliant either. And I just assumed, I'm in Germany, obviously the speech will be in German. I didn't for one second think about saying, could I hold it in English? Because they asked me, a German guy asked me to give a speech. So obviously for me, it would be in German, right? So I planned the whole speech in German. And then the guy in front of me got up and did his in English. And originally I was thinking, at first I thought, how lazy, like how arrogant,
how dare he?
Yeah, and like I could have done that. I've gone to all this effort.
And what an idiot I was.
Well, no, actually it was a good learning process, wasn't it? But then I got up and I did my thing, and all of the others had been like these type presentations, with a PowerPoint presentation, and they go from slide to slide and they hardly walk around, and there was not really much up and down. The voice was just like monotone, like if you're on the back of a lorry or something. And then I got up and I thought, I'm just going to do my thing. I've prepared this now. And I opened with like a really provocative question. And they were like, oh, sitting on the edge of their seats and listening and stuff. And I just kind of I just decided, just do it your way, girl. Just do it, And I did it, and I was marching around the room and I was speaking to people. I said, what do you think about that? Why is that? And getting people involved and everything. And at the end, they gave me a standing ovation. I was really shocked. I didn't know what to do. And I'm really close. I'm a very emotional person. I was like, oh, I didn't really know what to do. And there were all
this is
these
one of the things that this is one of the things I like about you, Karina, and why I'm doing this podcast with you, because you really have your own personality. You're a breath of fresh air. And people used to say that to me, and I thought, what do they mean? Why? But you are your own self, your personality, your dynamic. However, even if you're listening to this and you don't feel that you have a big personality and that you're not as dynamic, it doesn't matter. You have to embrace who you are.
Exactly.
And I think what happens is that when we speak on stage, being who we are, being ourselves, is actually incredibly difficult. It's easier to hide behind a facade of expertise than it is to be ourselves. And so the real work in being a great speaker is actually to feel comfortable enough to deliver yourself.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it is easy, isn't it, to kind of stand behind, what do you call those things that you stand behind?
A lectern.
Thank you, a lectern. It's easy to stand behind that so nobody can see what your feet are doing, and nobody can see if your hands are shaking with the paper or anything. But getting away from that lectern and approaching people and bringing them into your story, not a made up story, but your message, is really powerful, and it makes it a lot of fun, right?
Yeah, I mean, for those people that are interested in the English, the podium is the stage, and the lectern is where you put your notes and has the microphone. And often non-native speakers get those mixed up and say, would you like to stand behind the podium? Or
all right, oh, nice. Yeah. And what I would also say to people, if they are going to give a speech in front of 400 people, 500 people, or however many people, and there's been a gentleman in front of you who's a great big guy, you know, make sure that you have time to do something with that microphone. Make sure that you are friendly with the person that is cabling you up, because you don't want to be on the bad side of them. So make sure you leave enough time for that.
Yeah, or you know how to change the height of a microphone yourself. But
Exactly.
normally someone might pop onto the stage and do that for you.
Yeah, but it is nice if you can do it yourself. You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. So, when you're setting up your speech, obviously you can't just show up and talk out of your whatever. You have to plan your speech. Now, how much time goes into planning an event like that? How long's a piece of
It's
string, you're
like
going to say?
it's like an iceberg. Yeah. The
Right.
presentation itself is just the tip of the iceberg, and everything that goes to make it smooth and work really well is the presentation time. I mean, I can spend a week on a presentation, or I can spend 5 minutes. I mean, I remember when at a big conference, their keynote speaker didn't turn up, and they made an announcement asking everyone to sit in their chairs because the speaker hadn't turned up. And I just got up, walked backstage and said, would you like me to give a speech? And of course,
Wow.
when they said yes, please, and mic'd the girl up, I thought, what the hell am I going to talk about? But I didn't have much time. I literally grabbed a piece of paper and a big marker I asked someone to bring. And then I thought, I can only cover 3 things and an opening and a close. What are the 3 key things I'm going to open? I don't even have time to think, oh, should I do that? Should I do that?
Good
The first
story.
3 things. Yeah. So then I've put the 3 words on there, the opening and closing. And I said to the tech guy, when the next, I want you to go onto the stage and I want you to sellotape this piece of paper onto the stage, sellotape it so the wind doesn't blow it away, because I'm going to need that piece of paper to remind myself when I am terrified and nervous, what are the 3 elements I've decided, so that I have a good structure. So I
That's
can do
right.
it like that. But in general, the reason why I can do it like that at the last minute is because I've got a lot of practice in creating strong presentations. And what I say is there's a few rules.
Mm-hmm.
Rule number 1, do not edit at the creative stage. Just put all your ideas down. Number 2, cut your ideas into the best must be in and the nice to have but not important. Number 3, look at the time you have. Am I speaking for 3 minutes? Then is that 6 things I want to talk about? Is 30 seconds a thing? Most people go, oh, I'm talking for 3 minutes. Oh, if I look at it like that, actually, I've got 10 minutes of content. So it's a question of going, what is my time? How much time do I want for each of these sections? Is it possible? With that time, how does that contain or reduce what I was going to do? But this is only after you've got all the ideas out. Yeah, get all the ideas, and take out the bad ones and the ones that have to be in, and look at your time. Then think for each section, how am I going to open this section with a dynamic opening? What are the points I'm going to make, and how I'm going to transition to the next section? And a good rule of 3 is, in rhetorics, just have 3 main points. One of the points might have 3 subsections, but generally keep to 3 main points, and ask, how do I open the whole thing? It isn't with so, hello, okay, welcome. It is with a dynamic opening. And that dynamic opening might be something like challenge. We're here at this conference to talk about challenge. And in the next 3 minutes, I'm going to share with you 3 elements that will help you meet any challenge head on. There, we've come up with a dynamic opening. We've told the audience where we're going and what they can expect. And we've signposted how many points we're going to have. If you get all this correct, it kind of takes care of itself. But notice we have not yet opened our computer, and we have not yet started a slide deck. We only, after we've created the speech, ask ourselves, does this point need enhancement from a slide or not? If it does, is that slide dynamic, interesting, stimulating, add something extra. Or is it just a boring slide that looks like a handout? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you touched on a very interesting point here. I don't know whether you can identify with this, but being British, I find that we're not super structured. So this scaffolding for me has been one of my most difficult things in Toastmasters, by structuring the speech. But I'm finding that it's kind of creeping into other parts of my life too, which is quite nice.
What else have you structured? Have you tidied your knicker drawer, for instance?
No, haven't gone that far.
No, okay.
No, but it's interesting, isn't it, how different cultures probably are challenged by different things. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. So when you're choosing the stage as your platform for carving your personal brand, you know, when I'm working with people, we go through like the basics of business English, then we talk about being more impactful with what they're saying, asking more questions, using more body language, all of this kind of stuff. And then we talk about personal branding. And some people like to hide behind their keyboards and write a blog. Other people will start a podcast, and others start using the stage. So what is it that they should know if they're going to use the stage to publicize their expertise, but also their personality?
Yeah, well, never be afraid to allow your personality onto the stage. This is my friend. Hello. He's called Brex. I'm teaching him to sit. Brex, sit. He's not very good at Brexit, no. But always bring your personality onto the stage. So one of the things that I don't hide is I love teddy bears. Mm-hmm. And you would think, as a professional woman in business, you would need to hide that. I have a teddy bear handbag that whenever I go anywhere, I take it with me. And people say to me, I love your handbag. And it's always a conversation starter. If there's noisy kids, it shuts them up. But if I own that this is part of me, in fact, it's become part of my brand. If I own it, that it is part of me, people accept it without a bat of an eyelid, without embarrassment or anything. Yeah. If I don't accept it and I try to cover it up, it's like a awkwardness. And people think, oh, she's a bit weird because she's a bit childish. She kind of likes bears. But I say no. The reason I love bears, and I tell the story why, I share that with people, and they accept me as a sort of a bit of a crazy woman that loves bears, but is extremely good at her job. Now, I'm not suggesting you need to take your bear onto stage, but what I'm suggesting is you need to embrace the fact that you are individual and unique. How is that going to come across on stage? What is your brand? Yeah, my brand is authentically me. So if I then come up on stage and be very formal and official, I wouldn't be living my brand. No. I mean, I change some things depending on the client. For instance, if I'm teaching at Zalando, I might wear leather jacket and Doc Martens.
Right.
If I'm teaching at Deutsche Bank, I'm probably going to wear a blue dress suit. So I change my persona for the audience because I want them to be open to me. And if I go to Deutsche Bank in leather jacket and Dr. Martin boots, they're not going to be that open because I'm not reflecting themselves. So you want to partly reflect the audience, but also you want to be allowing the audience to feel that they're in safe hands. So ask yourself all the time, not how do you feel the speaker, but how actually does the audience feel? How do I want to make them feel? I actually want to make them feel relaxed, comfortable, in safe hands. And if I'm nervous and anxious and twiddling and trying to cover up who I really am, then they get nervous and they're anxious for me. And I lose a lot of credibility.
Absolutely. And I think that's why you have to choose your clients very carefully, right? You know, like, you know, I could be asked to go to a really trendy startup and I'd probably feel a bit out of place, to be honest. But if I went to a place, you know, where I could be myself, and then you're more likely to deliver, you know, because you.
Well, Karina, I disagree with you.
Really?
Why do you think that you wouldn't be great in a cool, trendy startup? Are you kidding me? Yes, you would. You're wacky and wild and wonderful. All those three things. But, you know, when you say choose your clients, of course, it depends on what product you've got and what you're doing, who is more likely to. I mean, I wouldn't go to speak to a group of mums, particularly who are on maternity leave, because I'm teaching public speaking training and they're probably not doing that at that time. So obviously that relates to who your audience are. But whether it is a bank or, I mean, who these days can choose their clients? You get offered work or a job or a possibility. Who these days can go, oh no, that's not quite me. Thank you though.
No,
No,
I mean,
you can accept everything, aren't you? And give it a go.
yeah, I know, but you can kind of attract different people from your website and things like that. That's what I meant, you know.
Yeah, that's true. And, you know, that's interesting. I think, you know, here I am, I'm in my tracksuit. I've been working out this morning and then I started working and I haven't showered and got dressed into my
It's
normal
okay, I can't smell anything.
There I am. But, you know, I just think, well, this is also part of me because I say, you know, accept me as I am. And I'm not going to play credibility. I'm not going to play importance. I'm damn good at what I do. I know it. I can change people and I've got something to offer. And that's good enough for me.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And that's good enough for all of the clients that would give you testimonials in the past too. So that's fine.
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. But it's interesting what you said about, you know, women on maternity leave. I've got a program that's starting very soon. It's called Back to Business Baby. And it's for women that are on maternity leave and they're about to come back and they've got those kind of mind monkeys going on. You mentioned earlier about imposter syndrome. Yeah. And they're like, oh, am I good enough? Do I know my stuff? How am I going to organize it all? So it's a 12-month program for them, and there will be a speaking part on that.
Well, that's different because that's them going back to work.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of work to be done in remembering that actually being a stay-at-home mum is like managing your own company. I remember, you know, you've got to wear about 20 hats.
Yeah.
You know, you're in charge of so many different things. You know, you're in charge of travel. You're in charge of catering, you're in charge of entertainment, you're in charge of education. You know, as a mum, you're in charge of all these things. So going back to work is actually a doddle.
It is. What? I've only got one job to do?
Oh, easy.
Fantastic. Excellent. So what people don't realise about public speaking, tell us some behind the scenes secrets. What is it that they don't know about public speaking? The good, the bad and the ugly. Go on. Spill the beans.
What don't they know about public speaking? Well, I, for instance, I do a warm-up before I go on stage. A lot of people wouldn't even think about it. But I kind of like, you know, make sure that my body's moving. I make sure my face is moving. So when I say my body is moving, I wave my arms around, my face is moving, I get it going. Okay. And one of the things that I do, not just before I go on stage, but in preparation, is a little bit of training for my diction.
Oh, I was prepared.
You were prepared. So for training for your diction, it's a little exercise that we learned at the BBC. And actually, Rex is very good at this exercise.
Oh.
You put the cork just between your teeth, like that. Okay, between your teeth. And then you try to speak as clearly as you can, as if you were on a podcast. And you wanted to be understood, but you didn't want people to know you had a cork in your mouth.
Wow, quite difficult, isn't it? Well, that makes you jaw ache, doesn't it?
Well, a small tip.
You've had more practice than me. I'm going to do that.
Except that your cork is probably from a bottle which is about 4 millimeters higher.
It's from this thing. I had little chocolates in it.
Don't offer me one then. I'm just a guest. Now I can see. Okay, so this cork is a 7 millimeter science cork. So it's a little bit less than a wine bottle. So I cut the...
Right.
It's got to be slightly uncomfortable, but not impossible. And then what happens is it's like weight training for the tongue. The back of the tongue really has to work hard to say the words. And this is extremely good, particularly if you're speaking in a language like English that is not your native language.
Right.
In order to articulate clearly, it's good to try this exercise. And I give this exercise to my coachees and try and get them to do a minute a day.
A minute a day? Wow.
A minute a day makes the diction problems away. That's what I say.
It sounds like addiction problems.
I just made that up on the spot. Addiction. So that's one really good thing. So I get my voice ready. I do humming.
Oh. Well, that's easy to do, isn't it, when you're waiting for the Zoom call to start?
Yeah. I do.
Oh, I'm quite good at that.
And I might do.
Oh, I needed this in Bavaria.
So I do some of these things, which just helps the clarity when I'm on stage. It makes me aware, and it makes the muscles work, and it makes me more articulate, which is very important when you're talking for something. So that's something I do to get ready sort of physically. To get ready mentally, I have this little exercise I'd like to share with your viewers. Oh. Now, I want you to imagine you're a leaf on a tree. A leaf on a tree. Just imagine being a leaf on a tree. How would your body feel if you were a leaf on a tree?
Free.
Okay, and now imagine you're the tree. Now be the tree. Exactly. But if we don't decide before we speak in public, on a Zoom or on a conference, if we don't decide beforehand that we're going to be tree, we're nearly always leaf.
Oh, really?
And leaf, it might be free, but it's kind of nervous and it's sort of wafty, and somebody could just push me over and it's not strong. But tree is strong. Tree doesn't mean aggression. I can be strong and I can smile at the same time.
Yeah.
So think tree, not leaf, and that will get you into the right place to go on there and be powerful.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, cool. Excellent.
And when you're speaking, try not to end with, okay, that's it, I finished now. Any questions?
Oh, so many people do that, don't they?
Yeah. Try to finish
quite
with...
often my clients will start with, hello, my name is...
Yeah, don't start like that. I told you how to start, which is like challenge. Yeah. That's what we're here to talk about today. Now I'm going to end with something like this. Challenge. I think you'll agree that we're ready for any challenge that comes.
Fantastic.
So you can match the two together.
Yeah, that's great. So I think that's a great note to end on, isn't it? I would say at the end of every podcast, I have a communication challenge. So it's Coco's communication challenge, but I'm going to steal one from you today. And I'm going to ask them, my listeners, my wonderful listeners, if they could maybe try this little exercise with the tree before they go into it could be anything, couldn't it? It could be a meeting, it could be on the stage, it could be... it could be having an awkward conversation with a member of your team that's not pulling their weight. It could be anything. Are you the leaf or the tree? Fantastic. Well, that is the end of today's episode. Thank you so much for joining us, Olivia. And I will no doubt see you very soon at Toastmasters. And until then, I would say to each and every one of you, have a fabulous week. And remember, be the very best communicator that you can be. You've been listening to Experts Speak English, brought to you by Corinne Wilhelm. Take care now, and be sure to check out my show notes at English Speaking Experts /139. Goodbye.